Welcome back to Local Election Matters. This is the second episode and we're taking a look at Reform UK. The big question about Reform UK is whether successes in these elections in May mean they're on track to break through nationally. They'll certainly be wanting to try and say that. Leader of Reform UK, Nigel Farage, is staking an awful lot on these upcoming elections.
The first way you can tell whether we're really on the way will be on the 1st of May this year with the local elections.
There are 81 seats up for grabs in this country, and I can tell you tonight, we are standing in absolutely every single one of them.
Reform are hoping to win lots of new council seats and some mayoral races and a by-election for a new Member of Parliament as well. Now, this graph shows why they think they're going to have lots to celebrate. It starts in 2011 and it shows their polling support over time and their vote shares in the dots in the local elections in that period. And you can see that Reform, Brexit Party and UKIP before them, that their polling tracked very closely with their vote shares in those local elections. And then we had the 2019 European Parliament elections where their support shot up, but their vote shares in local elections haven't been keeping up with their polling support. And that's really increased very recently, and they're hoping that their vote shares in these local elections will now match with their national polling. They're standing more candidates and should therefore do a lot better. Now, as I mentioned, on May the 1st, there's also a contest for a new MP in the Runcorn and Helsby constituency. Now, this constituency is held by Labour, and Reform got into second place in the general election last year. If they win here, they've shown they can win an MP from Labour for the very first time. Now, Reform could look like they've done really well by taking councils, maybe that parliamentary constituency. But that doesn't mean that they're easily able to translate that success in a general election for that bigger breakthrough that Nigel Farage wants.
We are the new kids on the experience whatsoever.
We're going to look at the hurdles that Reform will still need to overcome, even if they make gains in this May's local elections. Reform has a challenge in general elections of translating votes into seats. These were the vote shares and the seat numbers for Reform and the Liberal Democrats in 2024. Now, you can see here that the vote shares that Reform got was slightly higher than the Liberal Democrats, but the Liberal Democrats got loads more seats, 72. And that's because the Liberal Democrats concentrated their support, largely benefiting from tactical voting. And tactical voting didn't have the same benefit for Reform. Reform have to be a lot more popular for the electoral system to help them gain seats. But as long as they're one of the smaller parties, the electoral system will still make it harder for them. Now, the second challenge is that, so far, Reform support has mostly come from the right of British politics. So can they now broaden their support? You can see here that Reform's vote in 2024 came mainly from 2019 Conservative voters, some from Brexit Party and some from people that hadn't voted in the election beforehand. The electorate has moved more strongly into two camps: the right side that also likes Brexit and the left side that would support rejoining the EU. But that means it's now much harder for Reform to bridge those two camps and get votes from the other side. By 2024, only 5% of Labour voters then saw Reform as their second most preferred party. That's very low. And Reform also has a problem with female voters. Reform's support is higher among men, so broadening their support is going to be critical for them. Now, even if Reform do break through in Runcorn and in the local and mayoral elections, they still have bigger challenges to repeat that support in a general election. Governments do worse in by-elections as a rule, so a bad night might not be just as terrible an omen for Labour as it seems. And of course, Labour may still hold on to Runcorn. And as we learnt last time, smaller parties typically tend to do better in local elections than in general elections. So Reform's level of support has to be very high to know they're on track for a bigger breakthrough. The final challenge for Reform is that even if they do better And even if they look set to take constituencies from Labour in a forthcoming general election, they're going to, as things stand, be helping Labour at the very same time. How does that work? Well, this is the number of seats, 182, that Labour took from the Conservative Party in July last year. In 86 of those seats, Reform are now close enough to Labour in second or third place to be in contention to take those seats. So they could harm Labour in 86 of them. However, in 96 of those very same seats that Labour took from the Conservatives, Reform are not in contention. But they are helping Labour by taking votes away from the Conservative Party. They're helping Labour to win those seats as things stand. So, Reform can both harm Labour's majority as well as help them. It's kind of a one step forward, one step backwards situation. So Reform are probably going to do quite well this May, but there are still major challenges for them in taking those successes into a breakthrough in a future general election. The local elections really matter for Reform. Understanding what they mean matters for all of us and absolutely matters for how other parties make sense of these results.